Let's see what this is. Make WoW great again. All right. Okay, so we'll see what this is.
Hey everyone, this is Derry from Method. Recently, Method main raider Deepshades posted an article on Reddit that covered very thoroughly a list of potential improvements and suggestions for World of Warcraft.
Okay.
The post also included what he felt they were doing right, and some concerns even going as far back as Mists of Pandaria.
Jeez, that was a shitty
break
expansion.
down some of the highlights of the article, but we do hope you take the time to read the entire thing on your own. You can find the link right here, as well as below. One of the biggest concerns in the article is the pruning of class abilities, which makes many classes frustrating and even boring to play. Deepshades thinks classes are the most important thing in the game. If you don't like the character you play, you'll most likely not want to do anything in the game because you're not enjoying yourself. Currently, most specializations miss abilities to make them fun and entertaining, especially since Legion, most classes have even become boring. It feels like the latest talent trees are specialization specific instead of class specific.
That is
you have to specialize either for single target or AoE.
That's true.
And Deepshades doesn't think this should be the case. In previous expansions, you could do both, and talents just helped you improve it. According to Blizzard, they started removing abilities because the classes were already perfect and didn't need anything. The only way to...
I don't know about that. I feel like there's always been, and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, I feel like there's always been AoE specs and DPS specs. I think it's always been like that, right? Or maybe I'm wrong, but at least it seems like that to me.
Keep introducing new things is to remove old features. In reality, it turned out that players kept losing abilities, and some classes like Warlock, which is what Deepshades mains, haven't gotten any new abilities since Mists of Pandaria. Legion and Battle for Asmongold not having their own talent rows.
That's true. Wow. That's like 5 years. Oh my god.
Are a perfect example of this problem. But let's break down a closer look, and we'll again use Warlocks as an example. Here you can see a Mist talent tree. Let's go over the rows. In the first row, you had a choice of different self-healing abilities to make your life easier. Dark Regeneration and Harvest Life were good choices, while Soul Leech was passive. The second row had several options for crowd control abilities. In the third row, again a row with choices that made your survivability easier. Fourth row, different utility abilities like a Dispel or an additional movement ability. The Demonic Circle used to be passive. The fifth and sixth row changed your playstyle, but nothing that made or broke your class. But let's take a look at an Affliction tree from Legion. In the first row, you'll see the ability to increase your damage. Malefic Grasp is a must-have for single target, and Writhe and Agony for multi-target, and Mythic Plus. Haunt is completely useless. In the second row, Empowered Life Tap.
I used to use Haunt in Legion.
Was really only good for Mythic Plus. Absolute Corruption was really situational, and Contagion, again, a must-have for any single target encounter. In the third row, you see Demonic Circle, which is not passive anymore, sharing the same row with two abilities for crowd control. In the fourth row, Soul Harvest, which is the only proper offensive cooldown, sharing the row with an AoE ability, Sow the Seeds, and something in between. Phantom Singularity only was picked really situationally, and Soul Harvest should just be baseline instead of a cooldown like Summon Doomguard or Infernal. In the fifth row, survivability and movement choices. Warlock has no movement cooldown baseline anymore. The sixth row is the same.
Because they heal!
And in the seventh row, Siphon Life used to be useless most of the expansion.
Yeah.
Soul Conduit is super RNG, and Death's Embrace is really truly OP in a lot of encounters.
Okay.
So as you can see, Warlocks lost 15 abilities in the last expansions. Obviously, some of them are still available as talents, but that means...
So let's talk about this so far, okay? The first thing here is that there's a difference between talents being fun and interesting and there being a different type of talent on each row, right? So like if you look at this example here, and you look at Haunt, Writhe and Agony, Malefic Grasp, all of these are DPS abilities. Contagion, these are all abilities that empower another ability. These are all movement and survivability abilities, right? These get mobs off of you and crowd control other mobs. These are abilities that increase your damage either by modifying other abilities or by giving you new abilities. These are also survivability cooldowns in one way or another. This is something that modifies your gameplay in different ways. And this right here is just a damage, it increases your damage in the same way that level 60 row does. So if you want to compare that over to the Mists of Pandaria talent tree over here, it's kind of the same thing, right? Where this one would increase your damage. This one would also increase your damage. This one would, this is for crowd control, or actually getting away from targets. This is for crowd control. This is for survivability, and this is for healing. So it's effectively the same thing. At least I think it is. In a lot of ways, it's the same thing. But I think the criticism that this person is drawing is more with the abilities themselves and not necessarily the nature of the talent tree. Wrong? Not really. Okay, how am I wrong? How am I wrong here? It's not the same? How am I wrong? Yeah, no, I'm curious. How am I wrong? Just wrong. I mean, you got new abilities. Yeah, I'm actually curious. Your amount of talents mean you're either single target or AoE spec. That's actually not true. If I remember what Manaros Fury does, let me look up and see what Manaros Fury does. Let's see if we can find this here. My first run is Manaros Fury. So let's see what Manaros Fury does.
It's going to increase the radius of your AoE by 200%. So
wow, it seems like an AoE talent. Okay, so anyway, guys, let's go back over and we'll watch the rest of this. Okay.
Else got removed. This is why Deep Shades firmly believes Warlocks were so weak at the beginning of Legion. Before, you could choose utility abilities to make your life easier in every aspect of the game. And rotation, damage, and healing-wise, your class was pretty balanced. Another concern is the reward system in World of Warcraft.
Okay.
We're going to break down 3 aspects of the game, but again, you can read a lot more about reward system flaws in Deep Shade's full post.
And on twitch.tv/Asmongold.
Raids. Players want to get rewarded for completing a raid. He doesn't feel that gear alone is enough. Mounts should always be the absolute minimum, and not even that is always granted.
Okay.
Killjaden is a great example.
What a waste.
One of the hardest bosses in the game, and it didn't give you anything.
We got a title.
Good players should also be rewarded for clearing a raid early on. Realm First titles, or at least something like the first 200 players, should get a special reward. Blizzard could also...
They're actually doing this in Battle for Azeroth. Just so you guys know. They're doing this in Battle for Azeroth. They're making it to where the first 100 Alliance and Horde guilds get a special title. The only problem with that, and that was why they removed Realm First titles in Wrath of the Lich King, is because whenever people, like, a raiding roster is like usually 27 or 28 people, right? If it's 20 people in the raid, it's Mythic. So that 7 or 8 people or 6 people that are on the bench don't get the title, even though they could have potentially put in all the work that somebody else does and they were just sitting that day, right, for whatever reason. So that's why they removed Realm First titles. And so I'm curious to see if that's going to be a concern that's going to come back.
Introduce toys that are fun to use, like transformations on certain bosses. Mythic Plus. Gear should scale way better than it's doing right now on the live version. Blizzard could also introduce a form of currency that's issued in the weekly chest that grants you bonus rolls. Other useful items like flasks, materials, and things like bloods could be included in the chest. Completing each dungeon.
Can't wait to get more Bloods of Sargeras. But this is a good point here. They could absolutely introduce a badge system, the same as we used to have badges of Justice and badges of like Frost and everything like that in Wrath of the Lich King and Burning Crusade into Mythic Plus, and the level of the Mythic Plus that you did would give you that much more badges. It would scale kind of exponentially. So if you did really, really high level Mythic Plus, you would get a lot more badges, right? That would be amazing if they did that. I don't think they should give you more bonus rolls or anything like that, unless you can bonus roll the chest at the end of the Mythic Plus dungeon. Also, if they made the cap for Mythic Plus dungeons any higher, like beyond 940, people would just do Mythic Plus dungeons instead of Mythic rating, because Mythic rating has so much of a higher barrier to entry, and so it's very hard to balance the two of them together.
On a certain level should grant you the teleport like it used to. And there should also be titles, like in Mists of Pandaria.
So the teleport that she's talking about, if you guys don't know, it's these right here. Can you guys see it on the screen? Let me see. No, you can't. Okay, well, all of these little teleports here, I think it'll work right here, yeah. These would allow me to teleport to all of these dungeons if I got gold rating on them. So I do really wish they would bring those back. I like it a lot, but they already said that they weren't going to, so we'll see what happens.
And Warlords of Draenor for the people with the highest or fastest server key. Rated Battlegrounds also suffer from a lack of decent rewards. Rated Battlegrounds should have the same reward system as Arena. They should get the same mounts that Arena players obtain, and new titles each season. Making changes to racials is another way that Deep Shades feels the game could become more interesting again.
Okay.
Racials should be a funny side feature.
I knew it was Zarya.
To consider seriously when creating your characters. People like to play World of Warcraft to live out fantasies and play certain races because they like them, not because of a required racial for that player to feel competitive.
That's true.
He would recommend removing abilities like Blood Fury or Berserking. This might also help the balance between Horde and Alliance on many servers. In the past, professions used to be important.
So I want to talk about that. Let me talk about that real quick. So in terms of racials, here's what I think they should do. They should have tournament arena and normal or ladder arena. And I know some people might dislike this, but this is actually what they already do in order to equalize concordance. And they should just make it inside tournament arena that racials just don't work and gear is equalized. And they could apply stat templates and everything else like that while allowing the ladder arena to work in the same way that it used to back in like Wrath of the Lich King. That's what would make sense, right? And if they had a specific tournament only arena, then this would not be an issue at all.
But Deep Shades feels in the current game they've lost all meaning. He understands Blizzard doesn't want them to give you any advantage in terms of damage, but Blizzard could bring back fun and unique bonuses. Here's a few of his examples. Blacksmithing. An option to enhance the entire armor with indestructible, so you never have repair costs. Or enchanting. Have a secret weapon enchant that no other people have access to. The problem is, for some professions like jewel crafting, they get outdated. Blizzard needs to introduce something during the expansion to keep them all on the same level. Story development had its ups and downs through Legion. Suramar was one of Deep Shade's favorite parts of the expansion, and in fact, he calls it one of the best zones in the game ever.
That's really good.
The storyline was well thought through, and you could notice changes in the zone. It was dynamic. However, Broken Shore and Argus were the complete opposite. The quest lines were poor and felt unrewarding. Riddles like the Lucid Nightmare were perhaps one of the best features of Legion. Communities worked together on this project. Discords were filled with several thousand players at the same time with a common goal. People that are interested in solving riddles and lore-related questions.
This is really, I like this.
And being rewarded with unique mounts.
Okay.
This is definitely something that Deep Shades thinks Blizzard should bring back more often.
Okay.
Mythic Plus is undisputedly one of the best features of Legion, but Deep Shades did share some things that he felt needed adjusted. Mythic Plus should be more about struggling in time as you go higher, rather than having problems surviving mechanics like Focused Lightning from Lady Hatecoil. He understands it shouldn't be too easy, but a lot of class...
So what he's talking about really here, and let's go ahead and let's talk about that. So basically, he's saying that dungeons should be more about a speed run and less about about difficult mechanics, right? Oh, give me a fucking break, guys. She's reading the post that he made. Come on. Fuck, man. Now, I'm not even going to say it.
Are limited the higher up you go, and it shouldn't be quite so extreme. Higher keys should scale way more with life points instead of damage dealt by enemies.
That's true.
People would concentrate more on finding good routes instead of farming avoidance gear or leveling new characters because their mains can't survive certain mechanics. Another improvement to Mythic Plus would be creating seasons. Mythic Plus should be like PvP, something seasonal with rewards. The top 1% and top 5% get specific titles and mounts. Every player that participated in a Mythic Plus season should also get a certain currency. This currency could allow players to buy transmog, weapon enchants, toys, or more. A large part of Deepshade's post talks about improving the experience of raiding.
Nobody cares about that. So anyway, let's talk about Mythic Plus. So, yes, obviously they need to incentivize Mythic Plus. The idea of making Mythic Plus a speedrun, I think, is off-putting to a lot of people. But what I think that they should do is they should change the way that scaling modifiers work with certain abilities. So let's talk about the different abilities that are very bad with scaling modifiers versus abilities that are very good. The way that, let's say, Wrath of Ashara does more and more damage because the damage isn't necessarily a one-shot besides the big circle thing, I think is a good scaling of damage, and the way that Lady Hatecoil does the Focus Lightning is a bad scaling of damage. So what they need to do is they need to make different abilities scale differently with the Mythic Plus scaling technologies, so the damage isn't just completely the same across the board, while at the same time making sure that there are no one-shot mechanics.
And player enjoyment. In his opinion, there should really only be 2 difficulties of raiding. Perhaps instead of LFR, Deepshade suggests that Blizzard could create a story mode that people can play by themselves where they don't have to find big raid groups. It would be an interesting idea for players to fight end bosses without being required to queue into LFR. That way, everyone can have the chance to see everything. He does, however, believe that there should be challenging content that not everyone can do within just a few pulls.
Yeah.
In his opinion, challenging content motivates people to get better, and then in the end, they play more. Here's his idea. There should be 2 difficulties, like back in Wrath of the Lich King.
Yeah.
Heroic should start at a difficulty like the 7th or 8th boss of the currently normal raid, and end around the same boss in Heroic. Mythic should start where the new Heroic ends, and finish on a difficulty with a boss at the caliber of Lei Shen, Blackhand, or Archimonde. Another suggestion for improving the experience of raiding and player enjoyment is bringing back 10 to 15 man runs like Zulaman and Scholomance. Deepshades thinks many players would find this a cool feature, bringing back smaller raids like ZA that you can do immediately cross-realm. This would give an incentive to play with your friends and give you variety from your usual guild raids.
Lishan was easy. Must have done one LFR.
That awards a unique mount that's really hard to obtain in the beginning.
Yep.
This video has covered just a fraction of Deepshade's post, and we highly recommend you read the entire thing. Be sure to let us know in the comments below which parts were the most interesting or controversial for you. If you liked this video, don't forget to smash that like button and subscribe to us to know when new content is being released. Thanks for watching, and on behalf of Method and Deepshades, we'll see you in the next video.
We'll see you in the next video. That's a pretty good video. I agree with almost all of it, right? Don't smash it. All right, let's see what people are saying. Are there any good posts that were made here? Not really. Elitist destroyed. Oh, can you guys even read this? Elitist destroyed WoW. True story. There we go. Deep Shades needs to go out in the sun more. Who is this guy? Who's this guy talking shit? I want to look at. What is his profile? He's got 4 subscribers, and he's got a picture of Conor McGregor with a bunch of money as his profile. Wow. Okay. This guy definitely knows a lot. All right, yeah, the comments in this video, yeah, that's great, man.